All right, everyone, good morning. Welcome to today's panel discussion on communication professionals in the data-driven world. And I have a slides, and then please allow me to share my screen now. Can all you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, everyone. My name is Lu He. I am the academic advisor in the Grad Affairs office at College of Communication at Boston University. So today I am super excited about what we're about to discuss today because of these four outstanding panelists here with us today. Well, I would say they are really a group of experts who not only have the very rich knowledge, but very hands-on experience in analyzing data and conducting research. I know that we have students here from different programs today, but I believe you all agree that today we can all benefit from different levels, from analyzing data and then knowing about your consumers and then doing certain level of research in your communication related job. That's why, today I would hope that we could figure out two things from the discussion. And first is why data and research matters to communication professionals and how we can benefit from using data and research. Okay, I know I talked too much. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you today's panelists and then let them do a self-introduction first. Okay, Angela, would you mind jumping first?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello. Good morning, Boston. Great to see you. I'm Angela Dwyer. I'm head of insights at Fullintel. So a little bit about my background is I've been in the area of media monitoring and measurement, honestly, my whole career. After I graduated with my master's from Boston University, I immediately went into the research side of things. I'll tell you a little more about that story later, but I've been in this area for quite some time, and I really focus on helping businesses show value and make better business decisions and communication decisions with measurement. And I have worked across sectors, industries. I've worked at organizations that just do media monitoring and measurement, as well as PR agencies. So some that you'll know, like Fleshman Hillard, Porter Novelli, where I've sat at their offices, Lippy Taylor, mostly out of New York. And in addition to that, I do a lot of research. So I take what I've learned in school and in academia and I apply it to the profession. I've contributed award-winning research, and I'm on the board of the Institute of Public Relations Measurement Commission, the International Public Relations Research Conference Board, and newly I'm the co-chair for the PRSA North Pacific District. So if any of you will be at PRSA Icon, let me know. I'd love to meet in person. I know that sometimes PRSSA will be there. So that's a little bit about me. I'm really excited to be with you and to jump in. And again, I've been exactly where you are. I'm a proud BU Master's Comm graduate.
Thank you. And before I move to Cindy, Angela, would you mind say a little bit more and introduce a little bit about your current company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Fullintel for a year and I really enjoyed it. So we focus on media monitoring and analysis. So what that means is we'll do those daily news briefs, executive news briefs, summaries of all the news of the day for leaders of companies. And then after that, we analyze all of that content. And there's different ways to analyze. I'm sure you're familiar with automated tools, and then there's also human curated. What Fullintel is known for is our white glove service. So we really use that human touch to analyze. So we're able to get a lot more detail than the machines because we're using humans. We use both. We use a combination, but we do these analysis. So I'm in charge of all of the analysis report, helping brands know how they're doing compared to competitors, what they can do better. Oftentimes it's a crisis report, right? Learning from a crisis. So that's what we do at Fullintel. So it's all media monitoring and analysis. And I actually started at a very similar company out of grad school. So it's really fun to be back at this type of company. We partner with large corporations, so a lot of pharma companies, Google, Marriott, as well as PR agencies that hire us to do the monitoring that they don't want to do and the analysis.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah. Before Cindy start introduce yourself, I would really appreciate all of you just turn on your camera because we have this discussion as a future communication professionals and we talk to each other, see each other's face as a communicator. So it was lovely to see your face.
And we know it's a Friday, so if you're in a sweatshirt, that's fine. We're okay with that.
Exactly. So Cindy, please.
Thank you. I'll talk a little bit about myself and the company, and so some of this will also kind of overlap with Maddie, so she can jump in. But anyway, Madeline and I founded Planet Marketing more than 20 years ago. We had spent about almost a decade together at Hill Holiday. So, and then prior to that, I spent time on the client side with a couple of clients. And anyway, so my background, and by the way, hello, everyone. Sorry, I should have said hello. I actually did begin an interest in research during grad school. So I went to Northwestern through their advertising program through Medill. And as part of that, it was a very hands-on small program. And as part of that, I kind of figured out I really liked being involved in research and strategy. Analyzing what was happening, making recommendations on how to move forward with clients. We were actually put on pitches with various clients. So I actually did become interested in this career as during graduate school. It was something I had never even thought about until then, honestly. So it's not something a lot of people necessarily always think about, although today I think it's more common. But at that time, it wasn't as common. What I always liked about research and is I love analysis. I love figuring, problem solving and figuring out what's going on, identifying insights for clients, making recommendations that are actionable, and then seeing that play out in the real world. I mean, we've been involved through the years on numerous ad campaigns, as well as other marketing initiatives that have led to awards for various companies. So it's very exciting to see the fruition of your work in the marketplace and feeling like you're, contributing to that. So the name Planet basically is a takeoff on planning. So we often felt like, oh, don't call us a research firm. We felt like that was too narrow. So data for us, and we do, about half of our work is qualitative, half is quantitative. It really depends on the objectives, and our work is all customized proprietary primary research. So it's qualitative, it's quantitative, but we really see data and learning as a means to an end. How do we help our clients make, as Angela said, how do we help our clients make smarter business decisions? I mean, that's always the focus. So, if you have data and you don't know what to do with it, it's not very valuable. So you really need to be able to interpret, to analyze, figure out what it means and what that impact might be. You're making, sometimes it's subjective. You're making judgments about, what's going to work in the future based on that learning and knowledge. So you need to really be well informed about your, the client, the category you're working in, and then what you're hearing in your research. Our work does span numerous categories: financial services, healthcare, education, retail, technology. So we also, like Angela, we work in a lot of different categories, and that's valuable too, because you get that exposure and understanding that in one category that can apply to another category. But, again, our focus Planet is on planning, strategy, how to make smarter business decisions ultimately. And research and data are really for us kind of that means to an end. Maddie, do you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I think, well, I can tell you a little bit. Clearly, I haven't updated my picture to show that I went gray during the pandemic. So there you go. It wasn't always a popular decision around here, but I did it. So I guess I would say, similarly, for me, my background, I actually came out of college and had interned at Hill Holiday. And so within a year, I was in another field, but I really wanted to get back into the ad agency world. I thought it was, it was just a really fun experience. So I hate to say this, I sort of fell into research and planning a bit. I ended up, getting a job within the department, more administrative, but then sort of within a year, I had moved into a professional position there. But that year, I sort of was watching and learning what everybody was doing there. And I think, Cindy, you arrived within 6 months after I was there. And, just really had a real appreciation for what they were doing. So that sort of began my love of research and planning. And So I actually, while I was at Hill Holiday for the 10 years, I went to graduate school, got an MBA at Babson. And so, you really sort of augmented that learning. And it was great because I was learning in school and I was also doing it in real life, during the day. So it was a really good experience, a really good way, I think, to do that for me. So I would say same thing as Cindy said, I really do enjoy seeing the fruition of your work out there in the marketplace. I mean, we helped when we're dating ourselves, but when Priceline first started, we actually helped sort of develop how the features and benefits of Priceline should work. So, when you see before that was even a brand, we were working on it. So it's really exciting to see this.
Just a hint of a concept.
A hint of a concept, exactly. And also the fact that we work across, as Cindy said, a lot of categories, and you really do get to learn the industries, and you really get a lot of in-depth knowledge, and it's fascinating. The financial services world, the healthcare world, higher ed. We do retail and travel and everything, and several different other categories. So I would just second that. It's just it's a really rewarding career, and we've been doing this a long time together as a small business, and so that's a whole nother learning experience, running a business at the same time. So
wow, thank you both. And I would just want to say that, can you hire me? Can you hire me to work together with you on behalf of our students?
We need help sometimes.
Exactly. So, okay, before I circle back to you, and then let's move to Dr. G. Dr. G is the only one who worked for the academia side from all the panelists today. So please, Dr. G.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Lou. It's so great to see some familiar names. I believe some of you have taken my class before. And also Angela, we met at IPRC throughout the years. Yeah, so thanks for having me, Lou. Yes, it is absolutely true that I'm the only one who is a researcher but in academia. So my career path is slightly different from the three amazing ladies on this panel. I started research when I went to Miami for my master in PR, and then later I stayed for PhD in communication. So I would say my career actually centers on research fully. As someone currently it's on tenure track as assistant professor in PR, in marketing communication at Boston. I would just talk a little bit more about my research. So in general, my research centers at the intersection of emerging media and also corporate communication. The ladies on the panel talked about data and insights and how we can use data to provide insights for business and also for the strategic planning of communication for those companies or organizations. I don't directly work with clients on my daily life, but I'm sure that some of my research findings have provided guidance, theoretical guidance, and also strategic guidance for how professionals in the field can rely on those data infused and then evidence supported guidance to practice research, to practice communication in their business planning. So some of the examples that I do in terms of my research is besides the traditional research methods such as survey, such as A/B testings, such as interviews or focus groups, I also do some so-called big data analysis. So for example, on mine, data from Twitter, from Facebook, and I use topic modelings and also natural language processing to look at patterns coming from those gigantic data sets, and then look at what are the main themes coming out from those, and what are the main, for example, moral language patterns coming from those companies' communication when they're talking about social responsibility issues. And then I would pair those data with engagement insights and see what type of patterns, what type of communication strategies would work better for them to generate more impressions, to motivate more positive online communication, and etc. So that's a little bit about me. I'm looking forward to share more about my career and about my trajectory in research, and also, of course, learning more from the amazing insights from the professionals in the industry, and then see how we can better tailor our course plannings, and also for helping our students better to plan for their job hunting and their future careers, etc. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. G. Appreciate your insight because you're the one who always have the first interaction in your class with the students who are interested in pursuing a data-driven career path. So I really appreciate your input. So let's get started, everyone. I know, Cindy, Mandy, you're on top of everything. You cover quite a part about what you do in Planet, but I still want you to dig a little bit deeper. For example, like now we have students who are going to work for your firm in January, and they before they got hired, they want to know what Planet want us to do, what is the daily work, and how data and research related to my everyday life in Planet. Start from you, Cindy.
Okay. Well, actually, if you don't mind, I was going to ask Maddie to talk about the day-to-day, and then we'll also talk about how that
Sure.
plays out.
Sure, Mandy, please cut in. You're mute yourself.
Oh, Maddie, you're muted.
The note just popped up in front of me. Thanks. Sorry about that. So, you know, here we are small, we're a small business. So we're all sort of project managers, right? So Cindy and I really touch every project. We touch every client, which I think is nice for our clients that they get the senior level people on all of their work. And then we have people that support us with the day-to-day work as well. So, I mean, day-to-day, if you're coming in here, and we have actually hired several BU graduate students coming out of BU. In the past, we've had great employees coming from BU. I will say that, and lots of them. So, you know, you would be supporting us in terms of all of our project work. And so everything we do with our clients is on a project basis. We're not on retainer with clients necessarily. We have some that are ongoing that go the entire year, for example, with Merrill Lynch, but a lot of it is, you know, there's an issue coming up, there's a problem we need to solve, there's an opportunity they want to look at. And so we, you know, we work with them to come up with our research design, what we're going to do, what we're going to get out of this study. And then, so that project, you know, although we work on a project basis, we do tend to have long-term relationships with our clients. So we have been working with BU since 2010. We've been working with Merrill Lynch since before that. So we really get to know and sort of live and breathe the brand of our clients. So the graduate student coming in here to work with us would be, you know, if we're doing, depending upon sort of the type of research, is it qualitative? Is it quantitative? Are they helping us to write a survey? Are they helping us to write, you know, screeners to recruit the type of participant we need in our group or our interview or whatever it might be? They're helping us to write moderators guides. You know, it's a very collaborative process with us. Again, there's always 2-3 people, maybe 4 on a project, depending on the size. So we all work together, but somebody has to take the lead in terms of writing some of these things and then sort of agreeing on what we're doing. And then, you know, again, the next step is we're in the field doing interviews or whatever we might be doing, focus groups. And again, that person that's supporting us on the team is there watching, helping to talk to the client in the back room. And we are back doing some things in person. Yes, we've done a lot virtually, obviously through COVID. And then there's the ultimate is what's the story? We've got to write a presentation. We've got to make actionable recommendations because this is all fodder for the ultimate, which is what are we recommending to our client? And we involve everyone in the team in that as well. So we talk about what that story is, what are those key insights? You know, this is sort of the key piece, right? And we work on creating that story and creating a story that's engaging, you know, for clients. So it's got to be a presentation that really sort of is an engaging presentation, but that tells the story of what we want to tell and ultimately gives them all the recommendations that we want to put in front of them. So.
Right. Did you say this? It always starts with a proposal. So the proposal,
I actually didn't say proposal, but yes.
Yeah, which outlines what are the objectives that we're trying to meet. What is the overall methodology? Again, we collaborate before any project and figure out what's the best strategy. But it always starts with a proposal to the client, and then timing, et cetera, costs. But and so they would be helping with that process as well. But there's a lot of collaboration, and we're very hands-on in terms of training you. So in a small business, you get a lot of hands-on experience. because, there aren't, 100 people here. So,
Right.
And then adding to that, in terms of improving data, business results, one of the first things we did with BU, which is sort of, perfect for this panel, is we were tasked with, so I'll just give you some business results. So we were tasked with helping BU, they want to increase enrollment of top tier candidates, like the very top. And at the time, students were sort of put in these categories, and they were called DG 1s, 2s, and 3s. So those were the very top tier students who go to Harvard, et cetera. So this project started with qualitative, a tremendous amount of qualitative. It was among prospective students, it was among current students, it was among parents, it was among faculty, et cetera. Very wide ranging. And that was really the, exploratory, digging deep into people's attitudes and thoughts and what, reasons why they made decisions or didn't make decisions for one school versus another, how they perceived various schools, from all those constituencies. And then we created a quantitative study, which included a conjoint analysis. So the whole thing was about, the entire project in the quantitative portion was about decision-making and what's going to get someone to convert from you've been accepted at BU and you're going to make that decision to go with BU. So it was this very large-scale quantitative conversion study. So coming out of that study, was extremely valuable. At the time, it actually led to BU completely changing and evolving their positioning strategy from, at the time it was, we have something for everyone. We have a major for everyone. That really wasn't a very compelling or a very compelling message for top tier students. So it led to an overall umbrella strategy that really became focused on excellence and rigor, and really highlighting programs at the university that really were highly, top tier programs, as because those tend to have a halo effect across the university. So it really changed communications across the entire school, and then a lot of tactical strategies to help support that. Even how BU did tours with students. So there was and then within those three audiences, what we found is that they all had their own differences as well. So we made specific recommendations for the DG 1s, 2s, and 3s because they were a little bit different. And those recommendations were implemented. And then it led from, I think at the time, BU's acceptance rate, like as one result, was close to 40%. I think it was like maybe 37%. And now it's below 20%. So it really had an influence on the university, and that real focus on excellence and rigor instead of, we have something for everyone, but a lot of other tactics and other strategies that kind of supported that umbrella messaging. So, was featured in the Globe for this change in communications. Immediately there was a huge uptick in target student applications of those top tier students, as well as early enrollees. So we saw some immediate impact, and then longer term, it's just been very successful for the university. So that's just an example of how it can be, data and insights specifically can be used to have a real world result.
Very helpful. Okay, very helpful. I will dig deeper into that and then the next question. But I want to go to Angela because Angela, I know that this year you were named the top women in PR awards, and it's quite what an honor. And in the intro page that I saw, that they say that you, based on the research, you created a formula of creating content that is more likely to lead to the positive recall. So this sounds so academic, but we really want to know how you use data and research and to create this formula which can eventually drive the consumer behavior change and then benefit a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting is I often find that there's a disconnect in the academic world to the professional world, to the practice. And there's so much value, like Dr. G said, she does some really great research that if professionals actually saw it and consumed it and used it, it could change how they do work. So that's really what inspires a lot of my work. So what I did is I've developed metrics of measurement of media, which is the area I work in. And essentially, they are predictive. So it shows you how likely this article that your brand was in will influence your reader. Now, maybe in an ideal world, you're doing a survey every single time you have an article to all your audience and saying, okay, how did you think? Did you remember the brand? How did you feel about it? But it's just not a very practical solution, both for cost-wise and access to who saw the content. So doing this research one time, we then apply it across the board. So what I did for recall is I did survey research, and it was an experimental survey style research where we tested different factors of potential recall. There were 3 top ones. I always tell brands, if you're in an article and nobody remembers your brand, does it even matter? It can have a great message. It can have something that's going to really show your brand. But if they don't remember your brand, does it really matter that you, even if you were in a high-reaching publication, New York Times, and no one remembers your brand, does it matter? So it changes the way we look at quality content. So the 3 factors of recall that I looked at in my studies are headline mentions, multiple mentions, and visuals. And my question was, do these lead to recall? And if they do, what is the relationship? What leads to most recall? So then in my metric, I weight these factors differently. So question for the audience, which one do you think it is? Headlines, multiple mentions, so that's the prominence of the brand in the article, or visuals? Anyone want to take a guess?
Anyone wants to take a guess?
Which one? Okay, I'm seeing some chat. Thanks. Yeah. Good. It was visuals. So what was so interesting about this is there was a study maybe 15 years before, and headlines were the most influential. But think about our society. We are so much more visual than we used to be. Social media, everything, TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, we're very visual. So visuals had the most influence. And what we did, if you're familiar with t-test, it was like a 1 point something for headlines and prominence. But for visuals, it was like a 7 something. So there was a big differential between these factors. So they all had an influence. It's just that visuals had a stronger influence. So I thought that was really interesting as you're creating content. So now I took that information and I applied it in a metric that we use to measure how brands are performing in the media. So we just do content analysis, which if you've been in a research class, you've been exposed to this, you're just analyzing content. So we analyze news articles, we read them all, and we categorize everything into different topics or buckets. And these are 3 of the things we track. Now, something interesting about visuals is I thought, well, that's interesting, but what kind of visuals, right? So I did another study on engagement to see what type of visuals lead to more engaged time. And I found that not just a branded visual, but a branded visual with a human element led to more engaged time. So even something as simple as an iPhone, but if there's a hand holding it, it's more engaging. We connect to it more because we're humans and we connect to humans. So I take all this research and then I apply it to my clients. And I say, hey, I've learned that this type of visual or this visual, so it changes their media strategy, what they're pitching, the content they're trying to get out there, and then how we measure it. So I've created several metrics. I've created them for different organizations. My most recent metric is the media impact score at Fullintel. It's based off of all the best practices in the field. So it's not a secret, right? You can look at AMEC and IPR and all these organizations that recommend best practices in measurement. And these 3 factors of recall are an important piece of it. But I'll give you a little hint. It's not just recall, right? So I break my metric into 4 parts. Recall, audience. Are you reaching your right audience? That might be a combination of reach. Really just, is that your audience? I work with pharma companies, and for them, some of their trade publications are more important than maybe getting in a big pub, right? So we have audience. Great. So they're remembering and you're reaching the right people. That's when then we look at your perception. Those are your messages, your spokespeople. And then the fourth one is behavior. Now, I can't measure behavior just looking at a news article. So I look at things that would likely lead to behavior, like a call to action or a link. And then, of course, so I focus on that media analysis piece, but I do recommend doing survey, of course, to test it along the way. But at least it saves you from the costs. A lot of brands can't afford to do survey every day when they analyze their news content. So that's what I've done. I've developed research to help inform our media analysis.
Wow. No wonder they say you're playing a leading role in the measurement industry. I would say before talking to you, I really just have a very limited amount of knowledge about measurement industry within PR or even communication. Thank you so much, very helpful. Dr. G, before I move to the second question, can you please quickly wrap it up and then summarize why data and research so important to communication professionals, both inside the industry, but also in the academia side? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I feel the evidence is very clear based on the insightful answers coming from the other three panelists, right? So with data, no matter it's qualitative or quantitative, we're able to provide a lot more evidence-based insights for business. And we're not only able to evaluate what actually happened from a retrospective perspective, but also, as Angela mentioned, we're able to predict what might be happen and what's the likelihood of things that will be happening based on our research, right? So so this is and I always talk with my students. Yes, some of the PR advertising professionals will still say intuitions are the most important part when you're planning a campaign or when you're out there running a communication program. But from my perspective, as a researcher, I also believe in data, because data is the essence of how we generate our insights, how we generate our intuitions, and how we can make sure our intuitions will be reliable and valid throughout different contexts is how we run our program, run our campaign. So that's what I learned from, and also I'm just feel really happy and also thrilled to hear all those keywords coming out from our panelists, because some of the keywords, for example, Cindy mentioned that you had your employees, some of them coming from BU, moderate a focus group question list or interview protocols. And then Angela mentioned about t-tests, and some of you also mentioned about how to put a survey together, how to be in the field to collect survey. We actually teach all of them in our research methods course so we actually, specifically the program I'm teaching in, which is called Marketing Communication Research. So we have 3 very solid research communication methods classes running, from the most general one, teaching students what is research, why research is important, and then going through a general overview of survey, content analysis, qualitative research, recruiter interview, and focus groups. And then the second semester, they're actually getting into learning how to use inferential statistics and collect their own data to apply t-tests, ANOVA, F-test, correlation, regression, etc., to answer proposed research questions. So we actually, I did ask my students to propose research, and as what you guys mentioned, always started with a proposal, right? So we asked students to propose research. What are the objectives? What are the key questions you want to answer? And then later on, use data insights to answer those proposed research questions. So they also needed to deal with the timeline, though not budget isn't quite much at this point involved, but they also needed to understand what's the timeline regarding data collection, regarding data cleaning and data analysis. And then at the end of the day, they need to put up a very conversational and layman language reports to answer the research question they proposed at the beginning. Yeah.
That's the reason why I love our panel today. It's really just we set up example and share the knowledge before you're going to teach cover research next spring. Thank you so much. I'm going to move to the next question. So we're talking quite a lot about what you do. And then we want to not only know what you're doing every day in your job, but we also want to know the most important things, that what makes you qualified, capable of doing what you're doing, maybe capable of being who you are today. So what are those essential skills that you acquire, that you have, in order to complete your current job and then to stand out in the industry? Angela, I will start from you this time because I know that you graduated from COM. You're a proud COM alumnus. And then
I am.
I know
Yeah.
that. So tell us something about what did you study? And then did you already, foster this interest about data analysis and research while you here study at COM?
That's a great question. I was terrified of numbers, like absolutely terrified of numbers. And I just give you some background. In high school, I somehow landed myself in an AP calculus class as a junior. And I thought, if I can pass this test, I don't have to take math in college. So I tried really hard. I was terrible. I failed everything. I would I'd correct everything. And I had this teacher who said, "Hey, I'm not sure you should take this test because you're probably not going to pass." Anyway, I defied the odds. I took the test. I passed. So I didn't take any math in undergraduate. In fact, there was a statistics class that was required, but because of when I entered the public relations program in my undergrad, I did undergrad at BYU, I was able to skirt around it. So I had not taken a statistics class. I took a research class, but in my research class, I was given the option to do the focus group or do the survey. Guess what I picked? The focus group. I'm great at that, right? Qualitative. So I was scared of numbers. And somehow I ended up in grad school at BU. And my interest at the time was actually more around in the area of ethics. I was really interested in international ethics. So I went to BU to work with Don Wright, and because he did a lot in ethics. And so I ended up there. And of course, I put off the research class till very much at the end, which is funny because I work in research now. But finally, my last year, I take the research class. And by show of hands, if you can on Zoom, how many of you have already taken a research class at BU?
Got it.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, so many hands. Oh, whoa. Okay.
Okay.
If you guys can hold a little bit, I have time. I have time for you to ask questions. Can I ask our panelists to finish first and everyone? I know you have
Oh,
questions.
no, the hands are, they took a research class. If they took a research class, yeah, just so I know if they
okay.
Yeah, okay, great. So some of you have already taken research classes. I took Elasmar, is he still there? I don't even know.
I wish he was here
Okay.
today.
All right, so I took the research class, the dreaded research class, and it changed my life. Okay, so a few things I learned. One, if you want to be part of the decision making, if you want to do strategic PR, if you want to do strategic communications, right, that simply means research based. So if you want to be at the table making decisions, research is going to be a big part of that. Either you're doing the research or you're understanding the research. Gotcha. Two, I remember saying, do you want to make more money than your colleagues coming out of school? Go into research. So I did, and I made more money than my colleagues coming out of school. He said, you'll make at least 5K more coming out of undergrad or out of graduate school. So that was also proven true. But what I really found is that, what's most important, and why I'm telling you this story, is you don't have to feel like you're a mathematician. You don't have to be the best in the room when it comes to stats. I think to be great at this, you have to ask questions. You have to be curious, right? And be willing to learn, and also know what are the right resources. So I am not the best statistician in the room, but I know who is, right? So I partner with those who can bring in the skills that I lack, and I can understand the data. So I know if it's good data. There's so much misinformation and disinformation that just being data literate is really important, and it will make you very successful to understand the data. Is this a good study? Just a very quick mention on that. I had a friend, I was freelancing at the time, I was doing my own work, and he wanted me to do some PR work for him. And I said, okay, great. He was launching a new product. I said, great, well, have you done your research? Did you start with some market research? Do you know your audience? Do they want your product? And he goes, oh, yeah, we did the research. By the way, it was like a backpack with a chair in it. Like, I've never needed a backpack with a chair in it. So he gave me the research, and I looked at it and I go, this is great research, because I thought, oh, maybe he didn't get good research. I read the survey data. It was a good sample size, right? Good questions. I read the whole thing and I go, this is a great survey. Why didn't you listen to it? because he was trying to price his product at like 3 times what anyone would pay for it. Right. So I told him, you don't have an audience. Now, this is why being data literate is important, right? You might do the survey or have the research, but you also have to understand it and know how to respond to it. So those would be the best skills. And you don't have to be a math genius, right? I look at data, math, I look at more like language than math, right? It's about understanding, it's about communicating and understanding the story.
I think it's very helpful because you no idea how many students reach out to me before. It's like, Lou, I am really not good at mathematics, statistics.
Yeah, send them to me.
And then,
send them to me and I'll talk to them because we can talk about that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, next part, I want to move to Dr. D, because I know Dr. D, you serve like a bridge in between. And then on one side is industry, one side is academia. I would say that. So through your interaction and communication and in your classroom with students. So your suggestion to students, if they want to become another Angela, another Cindy, and another Mandy, what skills they need to build up and how, and step by step from the current state. I know majority of the students here, they're first semester students, so your suggestion value the most.
Yeah. Again, I would just throw to hear what Angela said about math and then importance of being data literate. This is exactly what I tell my students as well. And also, like, first off, I wanted to put out a disclaimer that I wasn't good at math at all either. Sometimes I joke about it. I know, like this coming from an Asian doesn't really, sound credible, but it is true. I was horrible at math when I growing up. But then somehow I become a quantitative researcher, and then I tell people that I play with big data and even do computational stuff at this point. So again, like if you're interested, if you're driven, if you're good at logical thinking, I think you should be able to do it. And also, I wanted to mention that regarding data literacy and know how to use your resources. This is what I told my students. We're going through the nitty-gritties, try to let you guys to understand what does hypothesis testing mean? What is something that's been statistically significant mean? So we teach you the theories behind it without doing the math. We have all the mathematician part taken care of by SPSS or by R, so all the programming tools. However, it doesn't mean that knowing how to click SPSS, how to know how to run the programs are the only thing that's important. I think what is most important is to understand the why behind it. So with that being said, when we understand the why, the reasoning behind it, we won't be tricked. We also know who we can pick when it comes to our vendors, right? Like I'm sure like the 3 panelists on our panel may be able to chime more about this. There are times, we're not the one crunching data. We're not the ones who are collecting data even. So many times we may outsize our work to external other agencies or other services when it comes to data collection, comes to data analysis, right? So, but then like who are the one we're going to pick? Who are the credible sources? And also when they're presenting their results, how do we analyze or interpret the results and then put them into understandable terms for our clients? So all of these will be coming from our knowledge of data analytics and the insights. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to be good at math. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think from today, I think one thing is very, very clear and important. So we need to understand data and then understand what behind those data. That's the most important thing. I know we're a little bit over time for today. I want to move to the next part and then start with Cindy and Mandy, because I know, wow, you folks been building this career in the industry for like over 3 decades, I would say. So let's say a question for you is that, especially I know, Cindy, that you're a little bit like Angela. Your background is in English, and then also the journalism, English, and the advertising. It's like Angela's in PR, and now you're all doing data analysis and then quantitative data analysis and qualitative data analysis. So I want to say, compared to the industry that you started your career like 3 decades ago to the industry it is today, And then what are those challenges and opportunities our current grad students are facing? And if they want to moving forward in pursuing data-driven career paths, what are those things that they need to understand about the industry? Which one you want to? Yeah, Cindy, start from you.
I don't know if you. I'm trying to think about the challenges versus when, you know, Madeline and I were sort of starting the career. I do want to just quickly reiterate. I do agree from the you know what the ladies said previously. You don't need to be a statistician to have a career in this. But you do need to understand. You need to understand theoretically. So you need to understand, how does the segmentation work? For example, if you're doing a segmentation, you need to understand the theory behind it, and you know, how does a conjoint work? How do you know? You just need to understand how they work. We also, like Angela, we work with statisticians, so we have experts we rely on. We ask them questions and figure out what the best strategies are. So you definitely don't need to be a statistician. I do think, though. And you don't need to be, you know, an expert in math, but I do think you need to have some comfort level with numbers if you're involved at all in quantitative work, because you do need to be able to interpret it. So when I started, I actually, the reason why this was an ideal career for me, I loved writing. As you said, I was an English and journalism major, but I also did like math. So this was the kind of job that actually allowed you to do both. And I love problem solving. So, and I totally agree with Angela, innate curiosity is critical. And what Dr. Grace said, it's all about the why and the interpretation, but you do need to have some comfort level with numbers. I don't think that's necessarily changed, but I think one of the things that maybe I see is different, and I'm not sure everyone agrees with me, but it's become so focused on data today that I worry sometimes that the why and the insights, aren't being recognized as much. We even see this sometimes on the client side, where they'll have a shift internally and they're getting rid of all their insights people. And I've seen this with numerous companies, and they're hiring all these data people, but the data people don't necessarily know how to turn that into
Angela, are you there?
as much value. So I do think that is a little, I think there's a real push toward data, but data on its own.
I think it's freezing just a little bit.
Yeah, but is it just the two of us, or?
I have no idea.
Interesting, because I feel like we're the only one who's still there.
They'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, interesting. Looks like we're the ones who have good internet, I guess.
That's so, right? Whatever our providers are. I usually don't have good internet.
I mean, like BE's internet on campus is a little bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Refreshing.
I don't know.
Are we back?
Lou, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. Did I lost the signal and everybody lost me in a couple of seconds? I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I'm not even sure. Did you hear me, or was it cut off?
We heard through the piece about data that we need to. It's not just about the data, right?
Critical thinking. Okay.
Okay, we're still recording. Okay, yeah, we're still recording. No. Okay. Cancel. Yeah, we're good. We're good to go.
We're still recording. Yes, we
Keep
are.
on.
And I think, Angela, you were going to jump in.
On this one, I mean, I just couldn't agree more. You know, I think that's such a great point. I was going to say one thing, that there are lots of opportunities, especially with AI integrations, with technology advancements. So the way we're using research and doing research might look different. And I actually think that you, the students, you're in a great position, right? Because if companies aren't moving ahead with technology, they're going to be behind, and you're going to be kind of leading them in many of these cases. You know, we've seen this with social media, right? It came in and it was the young people coming out of school that knew how to do everything. So there's a lot of opportunity with AI, with machine learning, with everything that we're seeing. And I personally have seen more and more brands investing in data and measurement. I joined a PR agency that didn't have anything, and now they have a whole department. I left, but they have a whole, a group, and they're getting awards, and they're doing really smart work. So just keeping in mind that there's lots of opportunity. But I love what Cindy said, that there isn't a lack of data. In fact, that's the challenge, is that there's so much data. It used to be that there was a lack of data, so organizations would just grab everything they could and said, oh, we need all the data. But now it's so accessible, and in such a quick speed, we can get numbers, right? So the thing that we need is to ask the questions and be able to know what is the important data for this question, and how do I apply that data? So it's not about having more, it's about being wise stewards of the data and asking the right questions and getting the right data and getting that human layer to the data. Because again, if we're just looking at numbers, there are a lot of numbers that can tell you all sorts of things that may or may not be true. So really asking the questions and applying those findings takes a really critical thinking mind. So that's a skill that's not going away.
Yeah, and I think also the challenge of just getting that information out to your audiences within a company. We have a lot of companies now that are using dashboards. They're trying to sort of put all their research into a dashboard so that their key people within the company can go and look at different measures, and which is a two-edged sword, because are they interpreting it correctly? But yeah, that's a key thing. There is so much data. Is how do we sort of corral it all and really get it out to the audiences in a digestible format?
Yeah.
Very insightful. So I want to combine the last question on this slide with the next one. Is about kind of like the suggestions and extra informations that we want to offer to today's grad students. So start from you, Dr. Deep. So I know you're teaching marketing communication and also the communication research next spring. So from your own perspective, so how should this group of grad students, they are not exactly in the marketing communication research program and also the emerging media studies program, they're not exactly gonna pick something related to data and research, but they in order to fulfill the requirement for their future career. So what are the knowledge, or what are the skills, and how to fulfill this knowledge and skill gap, and then while they are studying here at a college and before they enter the industry?
Yeah, great question, Lou. I think my answers will be building upon what the ladies just discussed about the challenges and opportunities out there. So I completely 100% agree there. There's a lot of quantitative data out there, and many of those data are unstructured. And then there are also data scientists out there. It seems like for us, we can't compete with them with their math levels and also with their programming levels. So these seems to be the challenges, but I actually think those are the opportunities. So with AI, with technology, there always needs to be a human validation part behind it. So like, who are the human validators? They're the ones who understand communication theories. They're the ones who understand communication strategies. So we are them, right? The ones sitting right here with us on Zoom. So that's one thing. And then secondly, of course, we all need to understand or be comfortable with data, because at the end of the day, we will still be working with data to provide insights, provide interpretations. So like I vividly remember last time when I taught on 723, which is the statistical class. We call it advanced research methods class. I had each of my students complete individual projects, starting from scratch all the way to data analysis and also reporting. There were a couple of students, majority of us did amazing job, because again, this was individual project that needs to be done within a semester. But then when I look at the hypotheses, some of the students proposed, they were just mainly pairing variables together without letting us or letting the clients know why those variables need to be paired, what's the theoretical reasons, what are strategic reasons behind them that we need to look at, why variable one will influence on variable two. So again, that's basically what I said, that we need to understand the theories, the communication theories behind it. So going back to Lou, your question, what are the skills? I would say, first of all, be comfortable with data, be comfortable with numbers, as what Cindy mentioned as well. And then secondly, I'm a strong advocate for understand theories and understand insights behind it. So that's also something I think that's the niche that we have as communication researchers sitting here. Yeah.
Anything else that the other three panelists want to add to this?
One thing I do want to add, and I mentioned this, like I love writing. We don't talk about that enough with data. Writing is really important, and because you can interpret it, and then to Maddie's point, it needs to be put in a form that is digestible, that's clear, that's understandable, that's relevant, that also is shown in a compelling way. And part of that is being able to write. So I do think writing skills are actually really important in this career. So I think sometimes it gets forgotten a little bit with the focus on, and data. So
yeah.
Yeah, I
Angela.
agree with that. First, I'd recommend taking every class you can take from Dr. G while you're at BU. Like, that would be what I would do. I would love to take her classes. So do that, because you'll just get a really strong foundation and you'll be able to make better decisions of what's the right path for you. Writing is so important because you need to be able to interpret the data and tell the story in a way. And someone said this earlier, that they put things in layman's terms, right? That you have to really simplify. I spend most of my career, my time working, I think, as an educator. I'm educating about what this means, how to interpret the data, how do you apply this? So that's another thing I would say. And there's a book that I would recommend that I thought was really interesting. It's called, I was just looking it up, Making Numbers Count. If anyone's heard of it, I really like it because a friend in research recommended it. It just talks about how do you take a number and then put it in a way that people relate to it. So again, thinking about how to take something and make it understandable, relatable, applicable. I think that's really the interesting thing. So take all the research you can, but also any opportunity you have to talk to a professional, to do an internship, right? Any opportunity to work on a project. That is such a blessing you have as a student, is people love students. To collaborate. Right now, I'm working on a research paper and I have a student working on it with me. So they're going to have their name published on the paper. So again, thinking of any of those opportunities to either work on a research project with a professor or with a professional, or just, shadow a professional or do an internship. So those are some of my takeaways. So thank you.
All right. Anything else? The last slide, I do have a last slide that I ask every panelist who did this with me before, but I think we touch on with majority of them. So before I wrap up and move to the Q&A part. So for the students who will write really, okay, for example, Cindy, our student who really say that I want to work for Planet. Not only an internship, or I would pursue a full-time job, and then there's an entry-level data analysis. So what do I need to, what kind of things that I need to prepare from now?
I think a lot of it's kind of what we've talked about when we interview candidates. One of the things we do talk about is it a good fit? And, having come from an ad agency where there are so many different, like Angela has a PR, clearly a strength in media and PR. There's so many different aspects of marketing, and not all aspects of marketing are a good fit. It is sort of dependent on your personality and what you might naturally be strong at. So we do tell people, if they're interested in this career, because we've had people come in and they really planning, because we really do think about planning, and it's really about that interpretation insight. And some people aren't, it's just not their natural fit. And we might say to them, you know what, you'd be really strong as an account person or as a this or that within marketing. So I would say some of the things we've already talked about. A natural curiosity is, I think, really important. You're a curious person. You love to problem solve. If you're a problem solver kind of person, the other thing we didn't talk about this today, but this is sort of critical in this kind of a career, and that is being able to juggle, because, rarely are you working on one project at a time. It is not a linear path. You don't get to come in and say, okay, you're going to be on this for 3 months. No, you know what? You're going to probably be on 3 or 4 or 5 projects, you know, depending on what's happening at the time. So you've got to be able to pivot. We're going to work, we want you to work on this proposal today, but tomorrow we're going to have you working on, I don't know, some other aspect on another project. So being able to multitask and be comfortable with multitasking, that's an important skill, I would say, definitely in this career. And then, you know, writing, comfort with numbers. So, there's a lot of, there are a lot of attributes, but for some people, it really is a natural fit. So I think you do need to think about, is that a good fit for me? If you were coming to work for Planet, those would be the things we'd be looking for. Also just self-motivated. I mean, that's really important. We might be in a meeting, you've got a question, like don't wait for us to come out and then ask us the question, take a stab at it and then explain to us, well, this is why I did it. Here's your thinking. And so those are really important skills. We've taken lots of BU students. We've had a number of them do internships and that have turned into jobs. We've done that many times where we, and then it gives us both a chance to see if it's a good fit. But I would say really understand yourself. Is this the kind of career that's a good fit for you?
Thank you. Mandy, do you have anything you want to add to this after what Cindy said?
No, I think she covered a lot of it. I guess, but to reiterate it, the idea of getting involved in anything you can get involved in to give you some real world experience, that internship, that, freelancing a project or helping out with a project. For us, as Cindy said, that's been the avenue into our company for so many people. And it's really important. It's great experience, and it's great for us to get to know somebody and I would say pretty much all of our interns have turned into full-time employees because, they really get that experience. We get to know them, they get to know us. It's been a good fit, and we've moved forward. So anything you can do to try it out a little bit, the career is very helpful. Sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
Just quickly to add to that too, I think we've definitely been more interested in people who come and say, I took a marketing research class. It's not essential, but I just loved it. This is what I think I want to do. Showing some passion for this. When someone comes in and they send me a resume, or they send us a resume and it says, looking for a marketing position with no kind of specific interest in, what we do, it doesn't seem like they really are passionate about going. You don't have to be passionate. And there are people who do it and then say, oh, I'm going to go into the creative field later. But, you want to show an interest in the actual, world that we work in, and not just kind of, I'm just looking for a marketing career. Well, marketing could mean a million things.
Yeah, a lot of things. All right. So before I open up to the floor and welcome our questions, any other things that the other panelists would want to add to this? Certain extra information? Okay.
Let's go to questions.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to move to the Q&A part and then stop sharing my screen so we should be able to see each other. And then, so this is your time. I'm so sorry about the internet signal. And then I know we're over time, but I still want to give every opportunity to my students today. And then raise your hand and ask whatever questions, just how fantastic our panelists sharing today. Any questions? MCR student, or I know that, yeah, Mandy. Mandy, go ahead.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah.
So actually, I have 2 questions. The first is that, but before that, thanks for the amazing sharing. It definitely helped a lot. So my first question is that, how is research different in industry and academia? And in terms of approach, in terms of fundings, and in terms of what type of personality suits, what type of research and stuff like that. So this would be my first question. And my second question would be about, since I'm an international student, so sometimes in terms of research and insights, I still feel like culture barriers could potentially be a factor that is hindering me. So in this sense, how would you guys put into that cultural difference into account when you're considering a career in marketing research? And that these are two questions from me.
Okay, I know your first question, but I don't hear very clearly about the second related to international student and cultural adaptation. So I will go with the first one. So who wants to jump in first to answer? So what is the differences didn't research, well, in the industry and also in the academia side?
Yeah, I have a little insight on that. It's just a story. I was at a PR agency and they wanted to do a survey for one of their clients, and they were using Pollfish to do the survey. And I said, well, how are they sourcing their people? You know, how are they sourcing the audience to take the survey? And it was all through gaming. So they're playing a video game and they take the survey and they get some points. And I said, that's not really the audience that would be using our product. So what it was cheap and it was accessible, but it wasn't really the best approach. So what I would say is in the industry, they often, not if you're in a research field, that's different, but sometimes they might not have that same rigor, right, in terms of how you create it or how you approach it. But I also feel like that's the sweet spot. So for me in my career, that's what I say. I do kind of academic rigor in the professional field. And that's really what differentiates you and what we do. So I would say it really depends, you know, at Planet and these ladies, they're doing the quality work. But at some agencies that they don't really know and they don't have a research department, I've seen all sorts of things and I go, oh, no, don't do that. So keeping in mind, there's a lot of opportunity to improve and there's a desire to improve in the practice as well. So there's a desire to be better at how we set it up, how we approach measurement. Budget's really interesting. I will say that organizations tend to have a little more budget in the field for this because they're valuing it more. So I'll often partner with university professors who might have a hard time getting budget. And I say, I've got the budget, we can do the survey. So that's one thing. And then in terms of the international student, I think you bring a depth of experience. I would actually say the opposite, that companies are looking for more diversity, and diversity doesn't just mean ethnicity, it means your background and your experience. So I actually think the more diverse group, the better. So I would actually lean into that international experience and say that you bring something to the table because of some type of diverse experience that you have.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit more to those questions as well. So for the differences between academic research and industry, also the timeline is completely different. So it takes us forever to publish a paper. And again, I go focus a lot on the rigor and the theoretical part behind it. And then in the industry that you're serving a client, and the client always wants to move to the next step. So from a timeline perspective and now, of course, the financial support perspective, that's drastically different. And then for the immediate objective, it's also completely different. Like for us, our immediate objective is to get the research done, have it published in at a high credible journal, and then of course in the industry you're serving a client too. So in that sense, like the research questions who we're serving, it's also very, very different. Like I ask my own research questions, I propose the hypotheses that I think are important and interested in, but then for someone who working in the industry, it's often your research questions, objectives are driven by the goal of a given campaign or a given product that they're trying to launch. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I see another Adrian.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I see Professor G. I took her classes, which I really loved and gave a lot of information about data. And now I'm really sure like what does data-driven decision making is, and I can confidently add it to my resume as well. Thank you, Professor. I really appreciate your class. And thank you, guest speakers, for sharing with your experience. So my question is, usually when you do the research, how do you track if that recommendations, that insights really work for the company? Or like after, for example, you gave me the example of PU, but usually do you do the same with all the companies? You give recommendations and insights and share with your presentations?
Well, from Planet's experience, and it sort of leads a little bit to the previous question as well. So our clients, so we do work with, we tend to have clients who are mid-size and larger, and it might be companies, it might be institutions, but they're people who tend to have budgets. And, we actually feel like we get we do get pretty pure results, but we also have made our reputation on one of the reasons we left the agency world and start our own business is because we did not want to be under the auspices of an agency who's trying to sell a campaign. And I'm not saying that they did, all the time, but I'm saying that we had a lot more freedom. So we've always been, that's a lot of our client commentary about us is they get the truth from us, and whether it's good or bad news. So we do not ever go in with the idea of trying to appease a hypothesis. So we've delivered plenty of good and bad news over the years to our clients. So that's really important because then we have credibility. The best is when you have senior management working, because a lot of our clients are corporate clients. Senior management doesn't want to be told something just so, there's a marketing team that, can sell something. They want to know the truth. So the more senior you work with, they really want the real world's truth. So I find that it's very much, there's a lot of integrity in primary work, especially when you're working with senior management. And the proof is in, the real world results. We see it every day. We always track with something we do with any client. We always track whether it's a new campaign or a new product launch or a segmentation that they're focusing on a new audience or whatever it might be. We're always looking for real world results. Even the work we've done with BU, there's plenty of real world results that we've seen. So we always track it. We'll pay attention to the news, what's going on. We do a lot of work with Boston Children's Hospital. We see work that we've done. It plays out in the news all the time. So it's really seeing those results take place in the marketplace and see positive results. And if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be with our clients for years and years. So, as Maddie said earlier, our goal is to have long-term relationships. We work on a project basis, but our clients are longtime clients. And that's because they trust us to tell the truth, have integrity, and give them the good and the bad news regardless. So, and then it's up to you to stay on top of their business. You don't want to be in a meeting and something major is happening. You don't know anything about it. So we're constantly tracking what's going on in our clients' businesses.
Yeah. And I will say, Cindy, we always say this, that sometimes we're in a room and we have more experience on that business than the people in the room because we have had such long relationships with them. And these people are new to this particular product line or service line or whatever it might be. So we really do live and breathe their businesses.
Thank you. So last question from
Thank you.
Rohan.
And one thing to that, I just said, that's so great that you're tracking it because I think that is a challenge is you might give a recommendation and you don't know. Right? Did they take the recommendation? Did it work? I've had plenty of times where I've said something and I didn't see the result and others where I did, where I did follow along. In one particular, there was a crisis of the hospital network and I did an analysis for them. And I kind of, explained certain things, particularly voices, their employee voices were really negative. And then I went on maternity leave. I didn't follow what they did. I didn't see anything. 6 months later, I did another analysis and it flipped. Their employee voices were a big share and they were positive. And I said, what did you do? Right? Like, obviously you listened to the data and you made a change. So that was really rewarding to see that type of change. So I would say anytime you have the opportunity to track it, that is really where the value is. And that's why, Planet is so successful because they are doing that and their clients are seeing the value, right? And those real world changes. So just wanted to add that there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then the last question. I know we're over time for today. Rohan, please.
Thanks for all the sharing. My name is Rohan. I'm a second-year grad student majoring in marketing communication research. My question is more related to industry perspective, because I know that different industry have different distinct research priorities or research characteristics. They focus on different types of research. So my question is that, do you think it is essential to align my market research career with a specific industry of interest? And does this alignment could significantly impact my future career path? Thank you so much.
I'm happy to jump in on that one. I would say unless you have a specific love for a particular industry, like you love healthcare or financial, I would say I wouldn't narrow it. And I think there's so much learning from one industry into another. And I know you said that the research is different, but ultimately it's not necessarily different. It might be, you know, the depth, the level, whatever might be different, but it's, you know, it's like, what's this latest opportunity? What's this problem we need to solve? We need to launch a new face in the marketplace and repositioning. Ultimately, the basic core questions are kind of the same. And even though you might get to them in different ways, depending on the industry, and even your audiences, there might be an industry where the, you know, internal audiences are as important as those external audiences. But like, you know, we do a lot of work in retail. So that's really focused on the customer, on clients. You know, if we're doing work for CVS, the focus is really on that retail customer. But the basic questions are kind of the same in the end, you know, depending on, you know, the time frame. But I don't know, others might not agree, but that's how I would view it.
No, I would agree. I think you can translate those skills from one industry to another. And we do it all the time with how we approach different projects, where we think about something we might have done in healthcare that we'll use to apply to something we want to do in financial services. So I think you don't have to narrow to one, I would not narrow yourself to one industry. I think, you know, you can have a really successful career with a lot of experience across industries.
It's really interesting to have a lot of exposure to a lot of industries. It does
make for an interesting career too. Yeah.
One of my first industries I specialized in was automotive. And it's funny, I was going to auto shows everywhere, and I have brothers who are huge car fans, and they were so jealous. And I said, I don't know anything about this, but I know research and I can apply it to any industry, right? So I apply research to any industry. What I would say is I do think that there's opportunity to specialize in your area of research or your method. So I do know people who they're the survey people, right? And like they really specialize in survey. There's organizations or companies that just do survey. And there's a lot you can think of that really specialize in that. So if you're interested really in survey, then you might look at something like a YouGov, a Morning Consult, a Harris Poll, a ResearchScape, so that they focus just on that survey, Dynata. Or if you're interested in other things, I do content analysis. So I actually, survey is not my primary method, but I understand survey. I partner with people who do survey, but my day-to-day is content analysis. So I've really specialized in just media measurement. So as you go on your career, you might have an opportunity to kind of become a specialist in one of these kind of methods, but I still do it across industries. So that is one thing to think about. But as you're starting, if you have an opportunity to do something where you're kind of exposed to more than one method, that's really helpful, I think. So you can kind of.
Yeah, Angela, that's a very good point. And going back to sort of knowing yourself and your skills, if you're someone who is more linear in the way you like to work, sometimes going specific into a research area actually is a good decision. If you're someone who wants to be on the front line with clients and telling them this is what you should do, then, it might be more of like the type of business Angela has or our business, which is more sort of front facing, client facing, doing the presentation. But if you are more linear, those can be great careers, and going into a detailed research profession is actually a really good idea.
Thank you. I have
so much.
I have space for one last question. I promise. That's from Holly. Holly, can you unmute yourself? And then I know you cannot raise your hand, but it's okay. What is the question?
Also, yeah, thank you for all of your sharings about how to apply data into real world from our academic perspective. So my major is advertising. So I have questions about related to my major. My question would be as an advertising student, how to find a job, comparing with the people who major in marketing research or marketing business analytics, what's the uniqueness and advantage for us to find a job? I mean, versus other people who have more experience to like cover this into like my cover letter, or like when I talk to the recruiter to show my uniqueness. Yeah.
Angela or Cindy, I know everyone from industry today has agency experience. And then anyone want to answer this question?
Well, I mean, I would just say from our perspective, we don't, we don't look for someone who's necessarily like a research person. We really like sort of the varied backgrounds, so that it just, for us, it isn't necessarily a strike against you that, you don't have all that specific training behind you. Because we're looking for good writers and good presenters and critical thinkers. And so you can lean into that stuff. In terms of for at least for a company like us, that's sort of what we're looking for first and foremost.
Yeah, and I would say if you know you have an interest in this area, if you can make whatever you're in kind of fit, like my background has given me these skills, tools which would naturally lead to a career in this. I mean, yeah, I would agree with Maddie. It's not essential.
And the last thing I would layer onto that is the lines in these different professions are not as clear cut as maybe they once were. So when you're in school, you're in the advertising track or the public relations track or the Marcom research track, or, in the comm umbrella, you all have your different tracks and you're kind of focused in that area. And in the profession, you do focus in areas, but what I'm finding is there's more and more what I call frictionless marketing. So it's very related. You might have a concept that comes from communications, but then you support it with paid, right? So there's just a lot more integration of what's paid and what's organic, for the good and for the bad, right? I find that there's also sponsored content that I'm like, we can't trust that as much. But that's something to think about coming from advertising, that you could work in advertising, but you could also work kind of in a wider umbrella under marketing. There's just a lot more crossover. So just thinking about, what is your end goal, right? Do you want to come up with a strategy? Do you want to be the creative? Do you want to, how are you going to work together and integrate with these different functions that all fall under that marketing umbrella?
I think that's very helpful. Holly, at this that we addressed many times today, that understand data. You don't really need to do data research and analyzing data, but you as a creative side or as the content development strategist, then you understand how to incorporate those data and those things behind this data into your creative side work in the advertising agency. That may be something you can think about at the moment. All right, this is the every note that I've been taking, like all the pages for this kind of discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I especially want to thank again for our fantastic panelists, and then very helpful, very insightful ideas that shared with us today. I really want to thank again for your time and support. And then I would also encourage our students to just make a connection with our panelists today on LinkedIn and get to really know what they're doing. And then if you have any questions, then feel free to jump in and facilitate this further communication after today's panel discussion. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah,
Thank you for organizing this panel, Lou.
Thank you so much. I wish everybody a great long weekend. All right, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet everyone. Bye-bye.